Hey guys, I'm Pixel Dan, and this is a review of the Masters of the Universe Classics, Extendar. One of the characters I always thought was one of the more unique from the end of the vintage line finally gets his own figure in the Classics lineup. The vintage figure was a bit of a departure from most of the standard figures. So how does he translate into Classics? Let's find out. Extendar comes in the standard Masters of the Universe Classics blister card packaging. The back shows off a selection of other figures in the line, as well as gives us a brand new bio for Extendar. Taking a look at the figure outside of the packaging, it's pretty clear right away that this guy has some new sculpt work going on. The vintage figure did not utilize the standard Masters of the Universe body. Being a knight character, he was much bigger and bulkier, both because he was supposed to be wearing armor and also to house his extending action feature. While this figure isn't quite as bulked out as the vintage one, he does still look a little wider with his knight armor and the face guard, and the new parts seen in places like the shoulders, the arms, and the boots. The paintwork is really nice here, giving us a beautiful mixture of very shiny gold and sort of a pearlescent white. Now, minor nitpick here. The vintage figure also had a beautiful pearl look to it, but it was much brighter and shinier than this new figure. It's definitely the difference in the type of plastic that was used, but I always loved the shiny swirls that were seen in that vintage figure. Now don't get me wrong, the paintwork still looks really nice on this new version. I just wish he were as bright and shiny as the vintage figure. Alright guys, let's go ahead and take a closer look at Extendar here. First and foremost, we'll go ahead and run down the articulation on this guy. And one of the first things I definitely feel is worth mentioning is the little face guard here, the little mask that's in front of his face. This is actually part of the armor sculpt that he's wearing. And this is your standard kind of armor that's over the male buck there, so you actually can pop this off. It's made of kind of the same rubbery plastic that we've seen for all of the other armor parts. And underneath, standard male buck, but you can see it's done in the same kind of pearlized white. It's actually a little brighter and a little shinier than the armor itself, which I kind of wish the armor was as brightly colored as the torso underneath there. But regardless, that armor is the same softer kind of plastic that we've seen on any of the figures that have removable armor in this line. So that means that this little face guard is also a little gummy, it's a little soft, made of this kind of soft plastic here, can bend around, but does not turn with the head. So you can still rotate the head left and right, move it up and down. It's on the same style ball joint we've always seen, but the face guard is always going to be looking forward. Now there are little slits in the front, of course, so you can kind of see the face through it, but it's really hard to tell anytime he's got his head turned. Because of that mask being face forward there like that, it does always kind of look like he's facing straight ahead. But it's kind of a limitation to the style of this particular figure. Now, the same with the shoulders here, because the shoulders are kind of a new sculpt. There's actually a lot of new sculpting on this to accommodate the shape of Extendar's armor, which is really cool. But the high kind of arches on the shoulders there does hinder the ball joint articulation, so his arms can't go up as far to the sides as most Classics figures can. He can still rock forward and backward just nice there, just fine. You got good swivels at the bicep. You got a standard elbow joint, as well as a swivel just below the elbow there, or just above the elbow. You got swivel at the glove cut, as well as swivel at the wrist cut. So there's some extra articulation on the arm, which is really cool. And part of that is due to the interchangeability that I'm going to show you in just a bit here. Now, of course, he still does have the torso crunch there. The ab crunch works just fine because he's got that softer armor. You can swivel him at the waist. The thighs can move the legs outwards very nicely. You can also get him in a sitting pose. Again, just like with the shoulders, the sculpt of the thigh armor hinders that just a little bit, but you can kind of turn the legs outwards, still get him in a pretty decent sitting pose there. You've also got the standard knee joints, which are nice and tight on this guy. You've got swivels at the boot cut, as well as nice little ankle joints that kind of allow him to rock side to side and forwards and backwards, but it's not a lot of movement again because it looks like it's hindered by the sculpt of that boot. Again, he's got a lot of new sculpt going on to really kind of bring the look of Extendar's unique armor out. So all of the sculpting is great. Just be warned, he's not going to be quite as posable as some of the other figures because he's a little bulkier than we've seen so far. But overall, I think it's done pretty well. Now, articulation out of the way, what we really need to take a look at is the extending feature. Now, real quick, I'm going to bring in the vintage figure here, because the way that the vintage figure worked is you actually extended them. The head popped out, kind of gave a tug on the arms there. All of the extended joints were hidden inside the figure, so you just popped them up, and that's how you got them to grow. By the way, look at that. The extended vintage one next to the standard normal one, they're almost the same height. That's kind of crazy. Get the head up there. So it worked a lot, kind of like Mechaneck, but without the twist, you just popped everything out. Now, since this is classics and action features quite like that aren't really present, plus if he had that kind of an action feature, you wouldn't be able to articulate them. What Mattel opted to do was include all of these little extending pieces. So similar to what we saw with Mechaneck's neck or Tallstar's extending parts, Extendar works exactly the same way. So let me go ahead and show you how that works. You can get in there and you can pop the head off, and it does take a little bit of work because you actually got to get your fingers in between the little mask there, but it's on the standard ball joint, very easy to pull off. You got the cool little neck piece there, just clips on the ball joint on the bottom, then you got a new ball joint on the top there, snaps the head right in there, it's very nice and tight. You remove the hands at the glove cut articulation, pop in those extended pieces. It's ball joints again, so it's nice and solid there. One thing I kind of want to mention with this guy is the overall figure does feel like he's made of a bit of a softer plastic than what we normally feel from our classics figures. Now, I don't want to sound like that's really a negative thing, because it's not like he's too soft or too gummy or anything like that. I believe the softer plastic was probably used for this interchangeability feature here. That way, all of the ball joints can pop on and off a little easier. It's not too much stress on really hard or brittle plastic. So, but it is going to feel a little bit different. You'll probably notice it when you pull them out of the package there. So you get the legs at the boot cut there. The torso pops apart. Kind of similar to what we saw with King Hiss, actually. It's it's not quite a ball joint. It's got more of like an octagonal shape there. Pops in nice and tight there. Pop the torso on the top there. And boom, there we go. We have our fully extended Extendar figure. So he's much taller now, and all of the articulation still works. Plus it swivels at all of those extended parts. So he's fully articulated, and he's much taller now, ready for battle. Once we get all of Extendar's attachments on, the figure now stands around 10 inches tall. So he towers over the other figures. I love how his articulation is still fully functional, and he even balances pretty well, so you should be able to get some really fun poses out of him. The extension pieces are done in a nice silver color and have the same circuitry design worked in as the vintage figure. Even the infamous peace sign is present on the back of his neck. Also, now that the neck piece is extended, we can get a better look at his cool, robotic-looking gold face. As far as accessories go, Extendar includes his classic red shield. The square shield clips nice and tight to either one of his wrists, and just like the vintage figure, has the ability to fold open in the exact same manner. So just like Extendar himself, his shield can extend if needed. And for a brand new accessory for this character, he also includes this cool lance. This is such a great inclusion for a knight character like Extendar. It's done in a black and gold color, though the gold doesn't quite match up with that of his armor. Also worth noting is that the tip of the lance is very soft, gummy plastic. No doubt the result of Mattel's safety standards. Alright guys, it's comparison time. Here's a look at the new Classics Extendar standing alongside the vintage figure, both normal and in extended poses. So there you go guys, there's a look at the upcoming Masters of the Universe Classics Extendar. This is a figure I've really been anxious to see. I always loved the vintage figure. He's one that many seem to always forget about, so I'm certainly happy to see him finally added to this lineup. While he doesn't quite capture the same magic as the vintage figure with his pearl armor, the extending feature does work really well on this guy. It's just a lot of fun to play around with that, even mixing and matching the parts. Maybe he only extends his arm for one punch. It can be done with this figure. Extendar is part of the 2014 Club Eternia subscription and will be available June 16th on MattyCollector.com. Until next time,